Sarah Mitchell never imagined that a casual conversation over coffee would change her life forever. She was sitting in the small cafe near the military training facility where she worked as a logistics coordinator, scrolling through her phone during her lunch break. The morning had been typical, processing equipment requests, organizing supply shipments, and dealing with paperwork that seemed to multiply by the hour. "Mind if I sit here?" asked a tall woman in military fatigues, gesturing to the empty chair across from Sarah. Sarah looked up and nodded. Of course. The woman introduced herself as Captain Elena Rodriguez from the Specialized Training Division. What started as polite small talk soon evolved into something more intriguing. Elena mentioned they were having trouble with their long-range marksmanship program. Several recruits had dropped out, and they were behind schedule for an important assessment. "We're actually looking for volunteers to help with some basic training exercises," Elena said, stirring her coffee thoughtfully. "Nothing too serious, just holding equipment, spotting targets, that sort of thing." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "I'm just in logistics. I've never even held a proper rifle." "That's actually perfect," Elena replied with a smile. "Sometimes fresh eyes see things differently. Plus, we need people who can follow instructions precisely. Your logistics background tells me you're detail-oriented." The conversation continued for another 20 minutes. Elena explained that the military was testing new training methods, trying to understand what made some people naturally better at long-range shooting than others. They needed civilian volunteers to participate in controlled experiments. Nothing dangerous, just basic marksmanship assessments under supervision. "Look, I know it sounds odd," Elena admitted, "but we're trying to gather data on different backgrounds and skill sets. Sometimes the most unlikely people surprise us." Sarah found herself intrigued despite her initial hesitation. She had always been curious about different aspects of military operations, even though her role kept her firmly behind a desk. The idea of trying something completely outside her comfort zone was both terrifying and exciting. "What exactly would I need to do?" she asked. "Show up next Saturday morning. We'll start with basic weapon familiarization, safety protocols, and then some simple target practice. If you're not comfortable at any point, you can walk away. No pressure, no commitment." That evening, Sarah called her sister Jessica to discuss the unexpected invitation. Jessica was a nurse who had always been supportive of Sarah's career, but worried about her taking unnecessary risks. "You want to do what?" Jessica's voice came through the phone with a mixture of surprise and concern. "It's just basic training. They need volunteers for some kind of study," Sarah explained, pacing around her small apartment. "I think it could be interesting." "Sarah, you get nervous when you have to kill spiders. Are you sure about handling military weapons?" Sarah laughed despite herself. "That's different. Besides, they said it's all supervised and safe. I'm just curious, you know? When was the last time I did something completely new?" After much discussion, Jessica reluctantly agreed that it might be good for Sarah to step out of her routine. "Just promise me you'll be careful. And call me as soon as it's over." The week leading up to Saturday felt strange for Sarah. She found herself researching basic marksmanship online, reading about breathing techniques and sight alignment. Her coworkers noticed her distraction during meetings, but she kept the upcoming experience to herself, unsure how they would react. Friday night, she laid out comfortable clothes and set 3 alarms. Despite telling herself it was just a simple volunteer activity, she felt nervous excitement building in her stomach. She had always been a careful, methodical person who preferred predictability. This felt like stepping into unknown territory. Saturday morning arrived with clear skies and mild temperatures. Sarah drove to the training facility, following the directions Elena had provided. The guard at the gate checked her identification against a visitor list and directed her to a building she had never entered during her 2 years working there. Inside, she found Elena waiting with 3 other civilians and 2 additional military instructors. The group was diverse: a retired engineer, a college student studying mathematics, and a physical therapist. Everyone looked as uncertain as Sarah felt. "Welcome, everyone," Elena began. "Today we're going to start with absolute basics. Safety is our primary concern, followed by proper technique. We're not trying to turn anyone into a soldier. We're simply gathering information about natural aptitudes and learning curves." They spent the first hour in a classroom setting, learning about weapon safety, basic terminology, and the physics of long-range shooting. Sarah found herself taking detailed notes, her logistics training kicking in automatically. The instructor, Sergeant Marcus Thompson, was patient and thorough, answering every question with professional courtesy. "The key to accurate shooting is consistency," Sergeant Thompson explained. "Breathing, stance, trigger control, Everything must be repeatable. Small variations at this end become large misses at the target. When they moved to the indoor range for hands-on training, Sarah felt her heart rate increase. The facility was impressive, climate-controlled, with sophisticated target systems and advanced safety measures. Each volunteer was paired with an instructor for individual attention. Elena worked with Sarah, starting with an unloaded rifle to practice basic handling. Don't overthink it, she advised. Focus on feeling comfortable with the weight and balance. The rifle should feel like an extension of your arms. Sarah was surprised by how natural the weapon felt once she adjusted to its weight. Her years of detail-oriented work seemed to translate well to the precise movements required for proper rifle handling. Elena noted her quick adaptation with approval. You're picking this up faster than most people, Elena observed. Your hand-eye coordination is excellent. When they progressed to live ammunition at short distances, Sarah experienced a moment of genuine surprise. Her first shot hit the target near the center, despite her nervous anticipation. The second shot was even closer to the bullseye. Beginner's luck, she murmured, but Elena shook her head. That's not luck. You're doing something right instinctively. As the session continued, Sarah's shots remained consistently accurate. While the other volunteers struggled with various aspects of the training, she seemed to naturally understand the subtle adjustments needed for precision. Her breathing was steady, her stance stable, and her trigger control smooth. By the end of the 4-hour session, Sarah had outperformed everyone else in the group, including the retired engineer who had extensive hunting experience. The instructors exchanged meaningful glances, but kept their observations professional. How do you feel about coming back next week? Elena asked as they cleaned and stored the equipment. Sarah considered the question carefully. The experience had been unlike anything she had ever done, yet it felt strangely familiar. I think I'd like that, she replied. Driving home, Sarah reflected on the morning's events. She had expected to feel overwhelmed or intimidated, but instead she felt energized and curious. There was something deeply satisfying about the precision required, the way small adjustments could dramatically improve results. That evening, she called Jessica to report on her experience. So, how was your introduction to military life? Jessica asked with gentle teasing. Actually, it was really interesting. I think I might be decent at it. Define decent. Sarah paused, still processing the day's events. The instructor said I was picking it up faster than most people. I hit the target consistently from the beginning. That's great. But please tell me this isn't turning into some kind of obsession. It's not an obsession, Sarah protested, though she wondered if that was entirely true. It's just, I've never been naturally good at anything physical before. I'm curious to see how far I can take it. The following week, Sarah found herself looking forward to Saturday with anticipation that surprised her. She had spent her spare time reading more about marksmanship, watching instructional videos, and even practicing breathing exercises. When Elena called Wednesday to confirm her participation, Sarah was ready with questions about advanced techniques. You've been doing homework, Elena noted with amusement. I want to understand what I'm doing, Sarah replied. If I'm going to volunteer my time, I might as well do it properly. Saturday's session moved to longer distances and more challenging conditions. Sarah's performance remained impressive, but, more importantly, her enthusiasm for the technical aspects of the sport caught the attention of Master Sergeant David Chun, the facility's senior marksmanship instructor. Mind if I work with her for a few minutes? He asked Elena during a break. Under Master Sergeant Chen's guidance, Sarah attempted shots at distances she would have considered impossible just a week earlier. His coaching focused on advanced breathing techniques and minute adjustments to her position. The results were remarkable. Her accuracy improved noticeably with each small correction. Have you ever considered competitive shooting? He asked after observing her technique. Sarah almost laughed. A week ago, I had never held a rifle. I'm hardly ready for competition. Sometimes natural ability develops faster than expected, he replied thoughtfully. I've seen people train for years without achieving what you're doing naturally. As the weeks continued, Sarah's volunteer sessions evolved into something more serious. Elena arranged for her to work with different instructors, each focusing on specific aspects of long-range marksmanship. Her logistics background proved surprisingly relevant. She approached each lesson with systematic analysis, keeping detailed records of her performance under various conditions. The transformation wasn't lost on her coworkers. Sarah's confidence had grown noticeably, and she found herself taking on more challenging projects at work. The precision and patience required for accurate shooting seemed to enhance her professional skills as well. You seem different lately, her supervisor mentioned during their monthly review. More focused, more willing to tackle complex problems. Sarah smiled, thinking about her weekend activities. I've been learning some new skills that require attention to detail. It's been good training for problem solving. By the end of her second month as a volunteer, Sarah was regularly shooting at distances that impressed even experienced marksmen. Her natural ability, combined with dedicated practice and excellent instruction, was producing results that bordered on extraordinary for someone with no prior experience. Elena approached her after a particularly successful session. Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Of course. How would you feel about participating in a more advanced program? Something that goes beyond our usual volunteer activities. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. What kind of program? We're selecting candidates for specialized long-range training. It's intensive, demanding, and would require a significant time commitment. But, based on what we've observed, we think you have exceptional potential. The question hung in the air as Sarah processed its implications. What had started as casual curiosity was evolving into something much more significant. She realized that her Saturday morning volunteer work had become the highlight of her week, the challenge she looked forward to above everything else. Can I think about it? She asked. Of course. Take all the time you need. But, Sarah, Elena paused, choosing her words carefully. Opportunities like this don't come along often. What you're demonstrating isn't common. That night, Sarah sat in her apartment, staring at the business card Elena had given her with contact information for the advanced program. She thought about her comfortable, predictable life in logistics, then compared it to the excitement and challenge of the past 2 months. Her phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. It was Jessica. How's your shooting hobby going? Her sister asked. It might be becoming more than a hobby, Sarah replied, and proceeded to explain Elena's invitation. Jessica was quiet for a long moment. Are you sure this is what you want? It sounds like a major life change. That's what I'm trying to figure out. 6 months ago, I never could have imagined any of this. Now I can't imagine giving it up. Then, maybe you already have your answer. As Sarah prepared for bed that night, she realized Jessica was right. The decision had been made gradually, through weeks of discovering abilities she never knew she possessed. Tomorrow, she would call Elena and accept the invitation to the advanced program. She had no way of knowing that this decision would lead her down a path toward making history, toward achieving something that would challenge every assumption about natural talent and human potential. All she knew was that she had found something that made her feel more alive and capable than anything she had ever experienced. The journey from reluctant volunteer to extraordinary marksman was just beginning. The advanced training facility was nothing like the comfortable indoor range where Sarah had spent her first months learning basic marksmanship. Located 2 hours outside the city, it sprawled across thousands of acres of varied terrain, rolling hills, dense forests, open plains, and rocky outcroppings that created natural shooting positions at extreme distances. Sarah arrived on a Monday morning in early autumn, her car loaded with the gear Elena had recommended. The list had been extensive: weather-resistant clothing, specialized boots, camping equipment, and personal items for what would be a 3-week residential program. As she drove through the main gate, she felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension that reminded her of her first day at college. The other participants were already gathering in the main briefing room when she arrived. Unlike the casual volunteer group from her initial experience, these individuals had serious backgrounds in shooting sports, military service, or law enforcement. Sarah suddenly felt out of place among people who spoke casually about competitions she had never heard of and techniques she was only beginning to understand. You must be Sarah, said a voice behind her. She turned to see a woman about her age extending a friendly hand. I'm Lieutenant Amanda Foster. Elena told me about your remarkable progress. Thank you, Sarah replied, grateful for the welcoming gesture. I have to admit, I'm feeling a bit intimidated by everyone else's experience. Amanda smiled. Don't be. Natural ability often trumps years of bad habits. Some of the most successful long-range shooters started with blank slates. The program director, Colonel Michael Harrison, was a legend in the precision shooting community. His opening address made clear that this would be unlike anything Sarah had experienced previously. Ladies and gentlemen, you're here because you've demonstrated exceptional potential in long-range marksmanship, he began, his voice carrying the authority of decades of experience. Over the next 3 weeks, we will push you beyond your current limitations. We will test not only your shooting ability but your mental resilience, physical endurance, and capacity to perform under extreme pressure. Sarah felt her stomach tighten as Colonel Harrison outlined the program structure. Each day would begin before dawn with physical conditioning, followed by technical instruction, practical exercises in various weather conditions, and evening study sessions covering ballistics, meteorology, and advanced shooting theory. Weekends would feature comprehensive assessments under simulated operational conditions. Some of you will discover that your previous success was limited to ideal conditions, the colonel continued. Others will find capabilities you never knew existed. By the end of this program, you will understand exactly where you stand in the hierarchy of precision marksmanship. The first week was a brutal introduction to the physical and mental demands of advanced shooting. Sarah's body ached from unfamiliar exercises designed to build the specific strength and endurance required for long-range work. Her logistics background had kept her reasonably fit, but nothing had prepared her for carrying heavy equipment across rough terrain or maintaining steady positions for extended periods. The technical instruction was equally challenging. Master Sergeant Shun, whom Sarah remembered from her volunteer days, introduced concepts that made basic marksmanship seem elementary. Wind reading became a complex science involving multiple variables at different distances. Ballistics calculations required understanding of factors she had never considered: altitude effects, temperature variations, even the Earth's rotation. At extreme ranges, everything matters, Chen explained during a particularly intense classroom session. A 2-degree temperature change can affect your point of impact. A 5-mile-per-hour wind shift can push your bullet completely off target. You must learn to read conditions with scientific precision. Sarah found herself studying late into each evening, absorbing information at a rate that surprised even her instructors. Her analytical mind, trained through years of logistics coordination, proved ideally suited to the systematic approach required for long-range shooting. While other participants struggled with the mathematical aspects of the training, she developed spreadsheets to track her performance under different conditions. "You're approaching this like an engineer," observed Dr. Patricia Williams, the program's ballistics specialist, after reviewing Sarah's meticulously organized data. "That's not necessarily common among shooters, but it's incredibly valuable at extreme ranges." The practical exercises were where Sarah's natural abilities truly emerged. Despite her relative inexperience, she consistently ranked in the top tier of participants when shooting from field positions. Her body seemed to instinctively understand the subtle adjustments needed to maintain accuracy while dealing with uneven surfaces, changing light conditions, and time pressure. "She's doing things that typically take years to develop," Amanda mentioned to another instructor after watching Sarah adapt seamlessly to a challenging prone position on rocky terrain. "Her natural stability and consistency are remarkable." The psychological aspects of the training proved as demanding as the physical challenges. Colonel Harrison introduced stress factors designed to test performance under pressure: time constraints, physical fatigue, simulated emergency conditions, and competitive elements that push participants to their limits. Sarah discovered that pressure seemed to enhance rather than diminish her performance. When other shooters became tense and began making errors, she found a zone of calm focus that allowed her to maintain precision even under the most challenging circumstances. This mental resilience caught the attention of Dr. Robert Kim, the program's sports psychologist. "Your stress response is unusual," he told her during a consultation session. "Most people see performance degradation under pressure, but your accuracy actually improves. That's a rare psychological profile." "It feels like the pressure helps me concentrate," Sarah explained. "Everything else disappears, and I can focus completely on the fundamentals." "That's exactly what we look for in elite performers," Dr. Kim replied. "The ability to use pressure as a focusing mechanism rather than a distraction." By the middle of the second week, word of Sarah's performance had spread throughout the facility. Instructors who weren't directly involved in the program began finding excuses to observe her shooting sessions. Her combination of natural ability, analytical approach, and psychological resilience was generating excitement among the staff. Colonel Harrison pulled her aside after a particularly impressive performance at 800 meters in difficult wind conditions. "Sarah, I want to discuss your future options," he said, his tone more serious than usual. "Your development has exceeded all our expectations. We need to talk about opportunities that go beyond this program." "What kind of opportunities?" she asked, though part of her already suspected the direction of the conversation. "Military service, specialized units, competitive shooting at the highest levels. Your natural abilities, properly developed, could take you places that few people ever reach." The idea of military service had never seriously crossed Sarah's mind. Her civilian life was comfortable and secure, with steady employment and predictable routines. But, as she considered the colonel's words, she realized how much her priorities had shifted over the past months. "I need to think about this," she replied carefully. "Of course. But don't think too long. Opportunities for someone with your natural gifts don't wait indefinitely." That evening, Sarah called Jessica to discuss her growing dilemma. "You sound different," Jessica observed immediately. "More confident, but also more serious." "This program is changing how I see myself," Sarah admitted. "6 months ago, I was satisfied with my job in logistics. Now I'm considering options I never imagined possible, such as..." Sarah explained Colonel Harrison's suggestion about military service and competitive shooting. Jessica listened quietly, asking thoughtful questions about the implications and requirements. "Are you sure this isn't just the excitement of being good at something new?" Jessica asked gently. "Major life decisions shouldn't be made during intensive training programs." "Maybe you're right," Sarah replied, though she felt the pull of this new direction growing stronger each day. "I just know that I've never felt this capable or alive doing anything else." The third week of the program focused on extreme range shooting, distances that pushed both equipment and human capabilities to their limits. Sarah found herself working with rifles and ammunition specifically designed for precision at ranges exceeding 1,500 meters. The targets became almost invisible to the naked eye, requiring high-powered optics and calculations that bordered on scientific research. "At these distances, you're not just shooting a rifle," explained Master Gunnery Sergeant Torres, the facility's extreme range specialist. "You're conducting a scientific experiment with each shot. Every variable must be measured and accounted for." Sarah embraced this scientific approach with enthusiasm that impressed her instructors. She developed personal methods for reading wind conditions, tracking atmospheric changes, and calculating complex ballistic solutions under field conditions. Her accuracy at extreme ranges consistently exceeded the performance of participants with years more experience. The program's final assessment was designed to test everything they had learned under realistic conditions. Participants would work in pairs, with one acting as shooter and the other as spotter, engaging targets at various distances while dealing with time pressure, changing weather, and simulated stress factors. Sarah was paired with Marcus Webb, a former Marine sniper with extensive combat experience. Initially, she was intimidated by working with someone of his background, but Marcus proved to be an excellent partner who appreciated her analytical approach. "You think through problems differently than most shooters," he observed during their preparation time. "It's actually refreshing to work with someone who approaches this scientifically rather than just relying on experience." Their partnership proved highly effective. Sarah's precise calculations and steady shooting combined with Marcus's tactical knowledge and spotting skills to achieve exceptional results throughout the assessment scenarios. They consistently ranked at the top of the team standings, often by significant margins. The final challenge was an extreme range shot at a distance of 2,200 meters under difficult conditions. Wind speeds were variable, temperature was dropping as evening approached, and participants had only 2 shots to achieve a hit on a target roughly the size of a dinner plate. "This is where we separate the exceptional from the merely good," Colonel Harrison announced as teams prepared for the exercise. Sarah and Marcus spent 30 minutes analyzing conditions, calculating ballistic solutions, and planning their approach. Sarah's mathematical precision and Marcus's experience created a comprehensive shooting solution that accounted for every measurable variable. When her turn came, Sarah felt the familiar calm focus that pressure seemed to trigger. The target was barely visible through her scope, appearing as a small dot against the hillside backdrop. She controlled her breathing, aligned her sight picture with mechanical precision, and began her trigger sequence with the smooth consistency that had become her trademark. The first shot was a miss, but only by inches. Marcus immediately provided wind corrections based on his observation of the bullet's trace. Sarah adjusted her hold accordingly and prepared for the second shot. "Winds holding steady," Marcus called quietly. "Send it." The shot felt perfect from the moment she broke the trigger. Through her scope, Sarah watched the distant target disappear behind a small puff of dust that indicated a direct hit. The range went silent for a moment before erupting in congratulations and applause from instructors and participants alike. "Outstanding shot," Colonel Harrison announced over the range communication system. "Target confirmed hit at 2,200 meters." That evening, during the program's graduation ceremony, Sarah received recognition not only for her exceptional performance, but for the rate of her development. Colonel Harrison's closing comments focused specifically on her achievements. In 30 years of training precision shooters, I have rarely seen natural ability develop as rapidly as we've witnessed with Specialist Mitchell, he told the assembled group. Her combination of technical precision, mental resilience, and natural shooting ability represents the pinnacle of what we hope to develop in this program. As Sarah accepted her certificate and listened to the applause, she realized that Jessica's concerns about making hasty decisions were valid, but her own instincts were stronger. This wasn't just excitement about being good at something new. It was recognition of abilities and potential she never knew she possessed. After the ceremony, several instructors approached her with specific offers and opportunities. A competitive shooting team wanted to recruit her for international competition. A military unit specializing in long-range operations was interested in her for advanced training. Equipment manufacturers wanted to sponsor her development in exchange for product endorsements. "You're at a crossroads," Elena told her as they walked toward the parking area. "Whatever you decide, make sure it's what you really want. Talent like yours is rare, but it needs to be directed toward goals that will sustain your motivation." Driving home that night, Sarah reflected on the previous 3 weeks and the dramatic changes they had brought to her life. The comfortable predictability of her logistics job seemed almost foreign now, though she knew she would have to return to it while making her decision about the future. Her phone rang as she pulled into her apartment complex. It was Jessica. "Welcome back to the real world," her sister said cheerfully. "How do you feel?" "Different," Sarah replied honestly. "Like I understand something about myself that I never knew before." "And what's that?" Sarah considered her answer carefully. "That I'm capable of more than I ever imagined. The question now is what to do with that knowledge. Just promise me you'll take time to think clearly before making any major decisions," Jessica said. "I'm proud of what you've accomplished, but I want to make sure you're thinking with your head and not just your adrenaline." "I promise," Sarah replied, though she suspected her decision was already made. The only question was which of the extraordinary opportunities she would choose to pursue, as Sarah's return to civilian life after the intensive training program felt like stepping backward in time. Her desk at the logistics office seemed smaller somehow, and the routine tasks that had once provided comfortable structure now felt constraining and mundane. She found herself staring out the window during meetings, her mind drifting to wind patterns and ballistic calculations instead of supply chain schedules and inventory reports. "You seem distracted lately," her supervisor, David Chun, mentioned during their weekly one-on-one meeting. "Everything okay?" Sarah forced her attention back to the present. "Sorry, I've had a lot on my mind recently. I took some specialized training during my vacation, and I'm still processing the experience." "Anything that might benefit the company?" David asked with genuine interest. "Not directly," Sarah replied, suppressing a smile at the thought of explaining extreme-range marksmanship to her logistics colleagues. It was more of a personal development opportunity. The truth was that Sarah spent every spare moment researching the opportunities that had been presented to her during the final week of training. The competitive shooting circuit offered immediate potential for international travel and substantial prize money. The military option provided structured career advancement and the chance to work with cutting-edge technology. Equipment sponsorships could fund her development while building a personal brand in the shooting sports industry. Each option had merit, but Sarah found herself drawn most strongly to an unexpected fourth possibility that had emerged during her research. The International Precision Shooting Federation was developing a new program designed to identify and develop civilian talent for potential world record attempts. The program combined elements of all her other options: competitive shooting, advanced training, equipment sponsorship, and the opportunity to make history. "It's called Project Apex," Elena explained when Sarah called to discuss the opportunity. "They're looking for individuals with exceptional natural ability who might be capable of achieving benchmark performances that push the boundaries of what's considered possible." "What kind of benchmarks?" Sarah asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "World records. Currently, the longest confirmed sniper shot in history is 3,540 meters, achieved by a Canadian military sniper in Afghanistan. The International Federation believes that record can be broken under controlled conditions with the right shooter and technology." Sarah felt her pulse quicken. "And they think I might be that shooter?" "Based on your performance evaluations from Colonel Harrison's program, you're one of only 3 civilians worldwide being considered for the program. Your combination of natural ability, technical understanding, and psychological resilience makes you an ideal candidate." The conversation continued for over an hour as Elena outlined the program structure. Selected participants would undergo 6 months of specialized training with the world's leading experts in extreme-range shooting. They would work with prototype equipment designed specifically for record-breaking attempts. Most importantly, they would have the opportunity to make attempts on various world records under official observation and documentation. The commitment is significant, Elena warned. You would need to take a leave of absence from your current job, relocate temporarily to our facility in Nevada, and dedicate yourself completely to the program. There are no guarantees of success, and the physical and mental demands will be extreme. What's the timeline for a decision? Sarah asked. 2 weeks. We need participants to begin the program by the 1st of November to take advantage of optimal weather conditions for record attempts next spring. That night, Sarah made lists of pros and cons, analyzed financial implications, and tried to approach the decision with the same methodical precision she brought to her shooting. But, underneath the logical analysis, she felt an emotional pull toward the challenge that was difficult to quantify or explain. She called Marcus Webb, her partner from the advanced program, to get his perspective. As a former military sniper, he understood the technical challenges involved in extreme-range shooting better than most people. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, he told her after listening to her description of Project Apex. The chance to work with that level of technology and expertise doesn't come along often. Plus, based on what I saw during our training, you have the natural ability to actually achieve something historic. But, is it worth giving up a stable career? Sarah asked. I mean, what if I don't make any records? What if I'm not as good as everyone thinks? Look, I've worked with some of the best shooters in the world, Marcus replied seriously. What you did during that final assessment wasn't just good, it was exceptional. Most people train for years to achieve that level of precision under pressure. You did it in 3 weeks. That was just one shot. No, it was consistency over 3 weeks that culminated in that shot. And, Sarah, that 2,200-meter hit was under less than ideal conditions with standard equipment. Imagine what you could do with perfect conditions and cutting-edge technology designed for record attempts. After ending the call, Sarah realized that Marcus had identified something important. This wasn't really about whether she was capable of breaking records. It was about whether she was willing to find out what her true potential might be. She spent the weekend researching current world records in precision shooting. The numbers were staggering. The longest confirmed sniper shot had been achieved by a team of Canadian snipers using advanced military equipment under combat conditions. The shot had required not only exceptional skill, but also perfect timing and favorable circumstances that might not occur again for years. But Project Apex was proposing something different. Instead of waiting for perfect circumstances to align randomly, they were creating controlled conditions specifically designed to maximize the chances of record-breaking performance. Purpose-built rifles, hand-loaded ammunition, ideal weather monitoring, and unlimited preparation time would be combined with the world's best training and support systems. It's like the difference between climbing Mount Everest without oxygen and with full support, Sarah murmured to herself while reading about the project's technical specifications. Monday morning brought an unexpected conversation that helped clarify her thinking. David Chin called her into his office to discuss her performance and future prospects with the company. Sarah, I want to talk about your career development, he began. You've been an excellent logistics coordinator, and we're considering you for a promotion to senior analyst. It would mean more responsibility, better compensation, and a clear path toward management. 6 months earlier, such an offer would have been exactly what Sarah wanted to hear. The promotion represented security, recognition, and professional advancement in a field she understood well. But, sitting in David's office, she felt no excitement about the prospect. That's very flattering, she replied carefully. Can I ask how long I have to consider the offer? There's no rush, but we'd like to make the announcement before the end of the year. Is there something else you're considering? Sarah realized this was her moment to make a choice. She could accept the promotion, continue on a comfortable and predictable career path, and wonder for the rest of her life what might have been. Or she could take the biggest risk of her life in pursuit of something extraordinary. Actually, I've been offered an opportunity that would require taking a leave of absence. I'm trying to decide if it's worth the risk. David frowned slightly. What kind of opportunity? Specialized training program. High-level competition. It's difficult to explain, but it's something I've discovered I have natural ability for. I see. Well, company policy allows for unpaid leave under certain circumstances. If this is something you feel strongly about pursuing, we might be able to work something out. That afternoon, Sarah called Elena to accept the Project Apex invitation. I'm glad you decided to join us, Elena said warmly. I think you're going to surprise yourself with what you can achieve. I hope so, Sarah replied. When do I need to be in Nevada? November 1st. We'll arrange temporary housing near the facility, and the program will cover your basic living expenses. Bring personal items for a 6-month stay, but don't worry about technical equipment. We'll provide everything you need for training. The next 2 weeks passed in a whirlwind of preparations. Sarah arranged for a leave of absence from work, sublet her apartment to a colleague, and organized her personal affairs for an extended absence. Her family and friends had mixed reactions to her decision. I'm proud of you for taking such a big risk, Jessica told her during a farewell dinner. I just hope you know what you're getting yourself into. I don't think anyone can know that in advance, Sarah replied honestly. But I know I'll regret it forever if I don't try. Her parents were more skeptical, particularly her father, who had spent his entire career in steady employment with a manufacturing company. I don't understand why you're giving up a good job to play with guns, he said bluntly during a tense family gathering. It's not playing, Dad, Sarah explained patiently. It's a legitimate sport with international competition and world records. Some of the athletes make substantial money and represent their countries in international events. But you just started doing this. Shouldn't you master it as a hobby before making it your career? Sarah understood his concern, but she also knew that opportunities like Project Apex were rare and time-sensitive. Sometimes you have to commit fully to discover what you're truly capable of, she replied. November 1st arrived with unseasonably warm weather in Nevada. The Project Apex facility was located in a remote valley surrounded by mountains that provided natural backstops for extreme-range shooting. The complex included dormitory-style housing, advanced training facilities, and shooting ranges that extended beyond 4,000 meters. Sarah was one of 6 participants in the program, drawn from military, law enforcement, and competitive shooting backgrounds around the world. Her fellow participants included a former British SAS sniper, a competitive shooter from Norway who held multiple European records, a U.S. Marine Corps champion marksman, an Australian police tactical officer, and a Canadian Olympic-level biathlete. Welcome to Project Apex, announced Dr. Richard Stone, the program director, during their first group meeting. You are here because our selection committee believes you possess the rare combination of natural ability, technical understanding, and psychological resilience required for record-breaking performance. Dr. Stone outlined their training schedule and objectives. The first 3 months would focus on developing their skills with the specialized equipment and techniques required for extreme-range shooting. The second 3 months would involve preparing for and attempting various world record challenges under official observation. Let me be clear about our expectations, Dr. Stone continued. We are not here to improve your shooting by small increments. We are here to push human performance to its absolute limits. Some of you will achieve things that have never been done before. Others will discover their limitations. All of you will be changed by the experience. The first week was dedicated to equipment familiarization and baseline assessment. Sarah found herself working with rifles that cost more than most people's cars, custom-built for specific record-breaking attempts. The ammunition was hand-loaded to tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch, with each bullet weighed and sorted for perfect consistency. This is like comparing a Formula One race car to the family sedan you learned to drive with, explained Dr. Michael Anderson, the program's chief technical officer. Everything has been optimized for maximum precision and performance. Sarah's baseline assessment confirmed what the selection committee had hoped. Her natural ability translated seamlessly to the advanced equipment, and her accuracy at extreme ranges exceeded even their optimistic projections. More importantly, her analytical approach to shooting proved perfectly suited to the scientific precision required for record attempts. She's treating this like an engineering problem, Dr. Anderson noted after observing Sarah's methodical approach to each shot. That's exactly what we need for consistent performance at these ranges. By the end of the first month, Sarah was regularly achieving hits at distances exceeding 3,000 meters under controlled conditions. Her consistency was remarkable. Groups that would have been considered excellent for experienced snipers at 1,000 meters, she was achieving at 3 times that distance. You're developing faster than anyone expected, Elena told her during a progress review. Dr. Stone is already discussing which records you might attempt during the spring competition window. What kind of records? Sarah asked, though part of her was almost afraid to hear the answer. The current world record for longest confirmed sniper shot is 3,540 meters. Based on your current performance trajectory, we believe you could potentially exceed 3,800 meters under optimal conditions. Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and intimidation. 6 months earlier, she had been a logistics coordinator who had never held a rifle. Now she was training to attempt breaking the world record for the longest precision shot in human history. The question isn't whether you can break the record, Elena continued. The question is how far beyond it you might be able to go. That night, Sarah called Marcus to update him on her progress. I can't believe what I'm hearing, he said after she described her recent achievements. 3,800 meters? That's not just breaking the record, that's shattering it. I know it sounds incredible, but the conditions here are perfect, and the equipment is beyond anything I imagined possible. Sarah, you need to understand what you're talking about. If you achieve a shot at that distance under official observation, you'll be making history. People will study what you've accomplished for decades. As Sarah prepared for sleep that night in her dormitory room, she reflected on how dramatically her life had changed. The comfortable predictability of her previous existence seemed like a distant memory. She was now living entirely in the pursuit of human performance at its limits, surrounded by equipment and expertise dedicated to pushing beyond what had ever been achieved before. Tomorrow would bring another day of training, another step closer to attempting something that would either establish her as one of the greatest precision shooters in history or teach her the true limits of her abilities. Either way, she was exactly where she wanted to be. The Nevada desert in February was a harsh teacher, imposing conditions that tested every aspect of Sarah's developing expertise. Temperatures swung 40 degrees between dawn and midday, creating atmospheric disturbances that could deflect a bullet by several feet at extreme ranges. Wind patterns shifted unpredictably as the sun heated different areas of terrain, and the thin air at high altitude affected bullet flight in ways that required constant recalculation. Weather is your greatest enemy and your greatest teacher, explained Dr. Elizabeth Hoffman, the program's meteorology specialist, during a particularly challenging training session. At 3,500 meters and beyond, atmospheric conditions matter more than shooter skill. You must learn to read the environment like a scientist. Sarah found herself immersed in studies that went far beyond traditional marksmanship training. She learned to interpret satellite weather data, understand barometric pressure trends, and predict wind patterns based on terrain features and solar heating patterns. Her logbook filled with detailed observations about how different atmospheric conditions affected bullet flight at various distances. You're becoming a student of physics, noted Dr. James Morrison, the program's ballistics expert, as he reviewed Sarah's meticulously recorded data. Most shooters rely on rules of thumb and estimation. You're developing mathematical models. The other participants had noticed Sarah's analytical approach as well. Thomas Mackenzie, the former British SAS sniper, initially viewed her systematic methodology with skepticism. In combat, you don't have time for all those calculations, he mentioned during a group discussion about shooting techniques. Sometimes you need to trust your instincts and take the shot. But this isn't combat, Sarah replied respectfully. We have time to be precise, and precision at these ranges requires accounting for variables that might not matter at shorter distances. Erik Larsen, the Norwegian competitive shooter, supported Sarah's approach. In international competition, the difference between winning and losing is often measured in millimeters. Every advantage matters when you're pushing human performance to its limits. By mid-February, the group dynamics had evolved into mutual respect and collaborative learning. Each participant brought unique expertise to the program, and they began sharing techniques and insights that enhanced everyone's performance. Sarah's consistency remained exceptional, but she faced a new challenge as the program progressed toward live record attempts. The pressure of official observation and formal documentation created psychological stress that was difficult to simulate during training. Performance under pressure is what separates good shooters from great ones, explained Dr. Patricia Williams, the sports psychologist who had worked with Sarah during her initial training. Your natural ability to use pressure as a focusing mechanism is rare, but we need to prepare you for the specific stresses of a world record attempt. The psychological preparation became as intense as the technical training. Sarah worked with Dr. Williams to develop visualization techniques, breathing protocols, and mental routines that would help her maintain focus during high-pressure situations. They practiced scenarios involving equipment malfunctions, changing weather conditions, and time constraints that might occur during official record attempts. Imagine that you have one shot to achieve something that no human has ever accomplished, Dr. Williams coached during a particularly challenging simulation. The world's attention is focused on your performance. Official observers are recording every detail, and you know this opportunity may never come again. How do you maintain your focus? Sarah learned to channel that pressure into enhanced concentration, using the weight of the moment to sharpen rather than scatter her attention. Her training sessions began including mock record attempts with formal protocols, official timekeepers, and simulated media attention. March brought the announcement that Sarah would be the program's first participant to attempt an official world record. Dr. Stone made the announcement during a team meeting that carried the weight of historic significance. Based on her consistent performance and demonstrated ability under pressure, Sarah will attempt to break the world record for longest confirmed precision shot, he announced. The current record of 3,540 meters was achieved under combat conditions with military equipment. Sarah will attempt to exceed 3,700 meters under controlled conditions with purpose-built equipment. The target distance represented not just a new record, but a significant advancement in human precision shooting capability. Success would establish new benchmarks for equipment design, training methods, and human performance potential. Why 3,700 meters specifically? Asked Maria Santos, the Canadian biathlete, during the question and answer session that followed. It represents a meaningful improvement over the current record while remaining within the realm of achievable performance based on Sarah's demonstrated capabilities, Dr. Stone explained. We're pushing boundaries, but we're not attempting something that depends on luck. The next month was dedicated to intensive preparation for the record attempt. Sarah worked daily with the specific rifle and ammunition that would be used for the official shot. Every component was tested and measured to ensure optimal performance. Weather patterns for the planned attempt date were analyzed using long-range forecasting models. Alternative dates were selected based on projected atmospheric conditions. We're eliminating every variable we can control, explained Dr. Anderson as he made final adjustments to Sarah's rifle. The remaining variables, wind, atmospheric pressure, temperature gradients, will require real-time measurement and calculation during the attempt. The rifle itself was a marvel of engineering precision. Built specifically for Project Apex by a team of the world's leading firearms designers, it incorporated technologies that pushed the boundaries of mechanical accuracy. The barrel was manufactured to tolerances measured in 10,000ths of an inch. The action was hand-fitted by master gunsmiths. The optic system provided magnification and clarity that made targets visible at distances that would have been impossible with traditional equipment. This rifle represents the current pinnacle of precision shooting technology, Dr. Anderson told Sarah as they conducted final testing. In the right hands, under proper conditions, it's capable of accuracy that was unimaginable just a few years ago. The ammunition was equally sophisticated. Each bullet was manufactured to specifications that exceeded military standards by orders of magnitude. Weight variations were controlled to fractions of a grain. Bullet shapes were optimized using computer modeling for performance at extreme ranges. Powder charges were measured using analytical scales normally found in scientific laboratories. At 3,700 meters, a variation in bullet weight of 2 grains can cause a miss of several feet, explained Dr. Morrison as he demonstrated the loading process. Every component must be perfect. April 15th was selected as the primary date for the record attempt, with backup dates scheduled for April 17th and April 20th based on weather forecasts. The location would be a specially prepared range in the Nevada desert that provided clear sight lines to the selected distance with minimal atmospheric disturbance. Official observers from the International Precision Shooting Federation arrived a week before the attempt to verify equipment specifications, review protocols, and ensure that all documentation requirements were met. The formal observation process was surprisingly complex, involving multiple independent measurements, video documentation from multiple angles, and detailed meteorological recording throughout the attempt. This is more like a scientific experiment than a shooting competition, noted Inspector General Harrison of the IPSF as he reviewed the documentation requirements. Every aspect of the attempt must be recorded and verified to ensure the integrity of any potential record. Media attention began building as word of the attempt spread through the shooting sports community. What had started as an internal project was generating international interest from sports journalists, military analysts, and technology reporters. The potential for a civilian shooter to break a record previously held by military snipers added human interest angles that attracted mainstream media attention. Try to ignore the external pressure, Elena advised Sarah as they prepared for the final week before the attempt. Focus on the fundamentals you've been practicing for months. This is just another shot, albeit one that happens to be measured and documented. But Sarah understood that this was much more than just another shot. Success would validate months of intensive training, justify the faith that had been placed in her abilities, and establish new benchmarks for human precision shooting performance. Failure would raise questions about the program's methods and her own capabilities under ultimate pressure. The final week of preparation was carefully orchestrated to maintain Sarah's physical and mental readiness while completing all technical preparations. Daily practice sessions continued at shorter ranges to maintain muscle memory and confidence. Equipment was tested repeatedly to ensure optimal performance. Weather forecasts were monitored continuously to confirm the suitability of the scheduled date. "Everything is as ready as we can make it," Dr. Stone told the team during their final preparation meeting. Sarah's performance has been consistently excellent throughout training. The equipment is functioning at optimal levels. Weather conditions for tomorrow are projected to be ideal. The only remaining factor is execution. That evening, Sarah followed her usual routine of equipment preparation and mental rehearsal. She cleaned and inspected her rifle, verified her ammunition selection, and reviewed her ballistic calculations for the projected conditions. But underneath the familiar routine, she felt the weight of anticipation building toward tomorrow's attempt. Jessica called that night to offer encouragement and support. "I've been following the news coverage online," she said. "It's hard to believe my sister is about to attempt something that no one has ever accomplished before." "It doesn't feel quite real yet," Sarah admitted. "I keep thinking about how this all started with someone asking me to hold a rifle at a training session." "Are you nervous?" Sarah considered the question carefully. "Not nervous exactly. More like focused. Everything I've learned and practiced for the past months comes down to tomorrow. But I feel ready. Just remember that you've already accomplished something incredible just by getting to this point. Whatever happens tomorrow, you should be proud of how far you've come." As Sarah prepared for sleep, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. From reluctant volunteer to world record candidate in less than a year seemed impossible. Yet here she was, hours away from attempting something that would either establish her place in history or teach her the limits of human achievement. Tomorrow would bring the ultimate test of everything she had learned about precision, pressure, and her own capabilities. The target waited at 3,700 meters, a distance that represented the edge of human possibility. Success would require perfect execution under perfect conditions with perfect equipment. But, for the first time in months, Sarah felt completely ready for the challenge. Dawn broke over the Nevada desert with the kind of stillness that precision shooters dream about. The air was crisp and clear, with visibility extending beyond the horizon. Barometric pressure readings indicated stable atmospheric conditions, and wind measurements showed the light, steady patterns that were optimal for extreme-range shooting. Sarah arrived at the range 2 hours before the scheduled attempt, following the pre-shot routine she had developed during months of training. Despite the historic significance of the day, she felt a familiar calm settling over her as she began her preparation ritual. This was just another shot, she reminded herself, albeit one that happened to be measured and documented by officials from around the world. "Conditions are as close to perfect as we could hope for," reported Dr. Hoffman as she reviewed the latest meteorological data. "Atmospheric pressure is stable, wind speeds are minimal and consistent, and temperature gradients are favorable for maintaining bullet flight predictability." The range had been prepared with scientific precision. The target, a specially designed panel measuring 18 inches square, was positioned exactly 3,700 meters from the firing position. Laser range-finding equipment verified the distance to within centimeters. Multiple high-speed cameras were positioned to record the shot from various angles. Meteorological instruments continuously monitored atmospheric conditions along the entire bullet flight path. Official observers from the International Precision Shooting Federation had arrived before sunrise to oversee every aspect of the attempt. Inspector General Harrison supervised the verification process with the thoroughness of a scientific experiment. Every component of this attempt must be documented to ensure the integrity of any potential record, he explained to the assembled team. The rifle, ammunition, atmospheric conditions, shooter position, target specifications, and distance measurements will all be independently verified and recorded. Dr. Anderson conducted a final inspection of Sarah's rifle, checking every mechanical component and verifying the zero-through test shots at shorter ranges. The weapon performed flawlessly, consistently placing shots within fractions of an inch at 1,000 meters. "The equipment is functioning at optimal levels," he reported. "Mechanical accuracy is excellent. All systems are properly calibrated. Sarah's ammunition for the attempt consisted of 10 rounds, each individually manufactured and tested to ensure maximum consistency. The bullets had been sorted by weight to variations of less than 0.1 grains. Powder charges were measured using laboratory-grade scales. Each cartridge represented the pinnacle of precision ammunition technology. "You have 10 rounds to achieve the record," Dr. Morrison explained as he handed Sarah the specially marked ammunition. "That provides multiple opportunities while maintaining the challenge and significance of the achievement." Media representatives had gathered to document the attempt, including journalists specializing in shooting sports, military technology, and human performance achievements. The story had captured international attention as an example of civilian achievement pushing beyond traditional military capabilities. Thomas Mackenzie and Eric Larson would serve as Sarah's spotting team, using high-powered optics to observe bullet impact and provide real-time feedback for subsequent shots. Their experience in competitive shooting and military operations made them ideal partners for such a demanding challenge. "We'll be your eyes downrange," Thomas told Sarah as they established their spotting positions. "Focus on your fundamentals, and let us handle the observation and correction." At exactly 0900 hours, with all officials and equipment in position, Sarah began her final preparation sequence. She assumed her shooting position behind the specially prepared rifle, adjusting every component for optimal stability and comfort. The position had been practiced hundreds of times during training, and her body automatically settled into the familiar configuration. The target, visible as a small square through her high-powered scope, seemed impossibly distant despite months of training at similar ranges. At 3,700 meters, even the slightest error in calculation or execution would result in a complete miss. Success would require the perfect integration of equipment, atmospheric conditions, and human performance. "Wind conditions are holding steady at 2 miles per hour from the left," reported Eric as he monitored atmospheric conditions through his spotting scope. "Temperature is stable, and visibility remains excellent." Sarah loaded her first round and began her breathing sequence, settling into the mental state that had become her trademark during high-pressure situations. The weight of the moment, the months of preparation, the international attention, the potential for historic achievement, seemed to enhance rather than distract from her focus. "First shot when ready," announced Inspector General Harrison, beginning the official timing sequence. Sarah aligned her sight picture with mechanical precision, accounting for the wind correction and ballistic calculations she had memorized for these exact conditions. Her breathing slowed to the controlled rhythm that maximized stability between heartbeats. The trigger sequence began with the smooth, consistent pressure that had become instinctive through thousands of practice shots. The shot broke cleanly, with the rifle recoiling smoothly against her shoulder. Through the scope, Sarah maintained her sight picture, watching for any sign of impact at the distant target. The bullet's flight time at this distance was nearly 4 seconds, an eternity in precision shooting terms. "No impact observed," Thomas reported after scanning the target area with his spotting scope. "The shot appears to have gone low and right." The miss was not unexpected. Even the most experienced precision shooters rarely achieve first-shot hits at extreme ranges under formal conditions. The important information was the direction and approximate distance of the miss, which would guide corrections for subsequent shots. "Adjust up 2 minutes and left 1 minute," Eric recommended based on his observation of the bullet's trace and impact area. Sarah made the scope adjustments and loaded her second round. The familiar routine of breathing, sight alignment, and trigger control helped maintain her focus despite the pressure of the official observation. Her second shot felt identical to the first, but with the recommended corrections applied. "Still no impact on target," Thomas called after observing the shot. "That one looked closer, but still low and right." The pattern was becoming clear. Despite extensive preparation and testing, the actual atmospheric conditions were creating bullet flight characteristics that differed slightly from the calculated predictions. This was not unusual at extreme ranges, where small variations in air density or wind patterns could significantly affect bullet trajectory. "Additional adjustment up 1 minute and left half a minute," recommended Eric, refining his correction based on the improved observation of the second shot's impact. By the fourth shot, Sarah's adjustments had brought her shots into the general target area, though still not achieving a direct hit on the 18-inch square that represented the official target zone. Each shot provided additional information about the actual ballistic performance under current conditions. "You're getting close," Dr. Stone observed quietly. The shot group is tightening, and the corrections are working as expected. Shot 5 impacted just inches from the target's edge, close enough that the spotting team could clearly observe the bullet strike through their high-powered optics. The correction process was working, and Sarah's shooting was demonstrating the consistency required for success at this range. That shot was on the right elevation, Thomas called excitedly. Just need a slight windage correction to the left. Sarah felt her confidence building with each shot. The rifle was performing flawlessly, the atmospheric conditions remained stable, and her shooting technique was producing the consistency required for success. The sixth shot, with minimal additional correction, would be the real test. Loading her sixth round, Sarah went through her preparation sequence with the calm precision that had characterized her best performances during training. The sight picture looked perfect, the atmospheric conditions remained favorable, and her position felt completely stable. The shot broke cleanly, and Sarah maintained her scope picture to observe the impact. For a moment that seemed to stretch endlessly, nothing was visible at the target. Then, Thomas's voice cut through the silence with barely controlled excitement. Target hit. Direct impact on the target face. The range erupted in cheers and congratulations from the support team, but Sarah remained focused through her scope, confirming the hit for herself. The target showed a clear bullet hole near the center of the 18-inch square, an unmistakable hit at 3,700 meters. Inspector General Harrison's voice carried across the range with official authority. Shot confirmed as a direct hit on target at a measured distance of 3,700 meters. Pending verification of all documentation and measurements, this represents a new world record for longest confirmed precision shot. The significance of the achievement began to settle over the assembled team. Sarah had not only broken the existing world record by more than 150 meters, but had done so under controlled conditions that allowed for complete documentation and verification. The shot represented a new benchmark in human precision shooting capability. Dr. Stone approached Sarah as she remained in position, still somewhat stunned by what had just occurred. Congratulations, Sarah. You've just made history. I can hardly believe it actually happened, Sarah replied, finally, rising from her shooting position. After all the preparation and training, it almost seems surreal. The documentation and verification process continued for several more hours as officials confirmed every aspect of the record attempt. Distance measurements were re-verified using multiple independent systems. Video recordings were reviewed from every available angle. Atmospheric conditions were documented in detail. The rifle and ammunition were inspected and certified to ensure compliance with all regulations. Elena approached Sarah during a break in the official proceedings. How do you feel about what you've just accomplished? Sarah considered the question carefully. Grateful mainly. Grateful for the opportunity, for the training, for the support from everyone who made this possible. 6 months ago, I was a logistics coordinator who had never held a rifle. Today I'm apparently a world record holder. It doesn't feel quite real yet. What you've achieved goes beyond just breaking a record, Elena replied. You've demonstrated that exceptional human performance can emerge from unexpected places. Your success will inspire people to explore capabilities they never knew they possessed. As the day progressed and official verification was completed, news of Sarah's achievement began spreading through the shooting sports community and beyond. The story of a civilian logistics coordinator breaking a military sniper record captured international attention as an example of human potential exceeding traditional expectations. Jessica called that evening to congratulate her sister on the historic achievement. I've been watching the news coverage online, she said, her voice filled with pride and amazement. They're calling it one of the most remarkable achievements in shooting sports history. It's been an incredible day, Sarah admitted. I keep thinking about how this all started with a casual conversation over coffee. If someone had told me a year ago that I would break a world record in precision shooting, I would have thought they were crazy. What happens now? Jessica asked. Are you planning to continue with competitive shooting? Sarah looked out at the Nevada desert where she had just achieved something that would have seemed impossible such a short time ago. I honestly don't know. This record was the goal we were working toward, but now that it's been achieved, I need to think about what comes next. Over the following days, as the official verification process was completed and the record was formally recognized, Sarah found herself inundated with opportunities and offers. Equipment manufacturers wanted her endorsement. Competitive shooting teams recruited her for international competition. Military organizations expressed interest in her training methods and natural abilities. You have options that few people ever receive, Dr. Stone told her during their final debriefing session. Your achievement has established you as one of the elite precision shooters in the world. The question is what you want to do with that recognition. Sarah spent her last week in Nevada reflecting on the journey that had brought her to this point. The comfortable predictability of her logistics career seemed like a distant memory, replaced by the realization that she possessed capabilities she had never imagined. The world record was officially confirmed on May 1st, establishing Sarah Mitchell as the holder of the longest confirmed precision shot in history at 3,700 meters. But, more than the record itself, the achievement represented something deeper about human potential and the extraordinary capabilities that can emerge when natural talent meets proper training and opportunity. Standing on the range where she had made history, Sarah realized that breaking the world record was not an ending, but a beginning. She had discovered abilities that would shape the rest of her life, opening doors to opportunities she was only beginning to understand. The quiet logistics coordinator who had reluctantly agreed to just hold the rifle had become someone capable of achieving the impossible. The future remained unwritten, but Sarah knew it would be extraordinary. She had proven to herself and the world that limitations are often just assumptions waiting to be challenged. With that knowledge came the responsibility to continue pushing boundaries and inspiring others to explore their own hidden capabilities. The world record would stand as a testament to what was possible when preparation met opportunity and natural talent was allowed to flourish. But, for Sarah, the real achievement was the discovery of who she could become when she dared to step beyond the comfortable confines of what she thought was possible.